Dang, we're getting rolling, rocking and rolling. He's here already. Now I could just get into the intro. These ones are always all right. That's what I said. Need my glasses. All right. Yeah. All right. Trying to center myself. Right here? Yeah. Nope. My camera's glitching. You gotta fix that. Hold on, y'all. Sorry. Sorry, guys. The camera's glitching. And when that happens, technology sucks and wants to ruin everything. So I always got to fix the damn camera every 5 seconds. So, you know how it is. Or maybe you don't. That looks terrible. I'm not using that. Are you kidding me? There we go. Now it should be good. Okay. Now I can get into this answer. Gosh. Welcome to a slimy edition of Jantmore Interviews. As always, I'm your host, Josh, aka Jantmore. My guest today. Rewind. I ain't say that. Let's do it again. Welcome to a slimy edition of Jantmore Interviews. As always, I am your humble host, Josh, aka Jantmore. My guest today stars in the latest installment in the Mortal Kombat franchise as the Zartarian shapeshifter himself, Reptile. In addition to the collector in Mortal Kombat 11, Bruno in Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Revnov and Zigurov, I'm probably saying that name all the way wrong, in Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War Zombies, Cliff Jumper and Bumblebee Venom in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, Ryuk and Mithrax in Destiny 2, Beckett in Fallout 76, and most recently as Terran Killis in Starfield. You have to see him to catch him. Please help me welcome back phenomenal talent and friend Andrew Morgado. I probably said the name wrong too. I messed up.
Woo!
How are you? Hold on. Here we go. Boom.
Yo, oh man. Oh
Yes.
man. Look at that. What an intro.
Even though I messed it up twice. Oh my gosh. Andrew, could you flip your phone this way?
Yeah, I thought you wanted it vertical.
I meant horizontal. I'm such a dummy. Why did I say? There you go. Why did I say? I said vertical. I did.
You got your vertical and your horizontal mixed up. It's all right. It's all right. You know, we've all been there.
It's like a left and right situation. Oh my gosh. Guys, if I sound weird, I'm sorry. My voice is like gone, kind of. It's like now coming back. So if I sound tired, I'm not tired. I'm very wide awake. It's just my voice is coming back. So Andrew, thank you so much for coming back, man. Welcome back. I'm so glad to have you back on the show, dude. It's been 2 years. That is insane.
Has it really?
It's been 2 years. I interviewed you in December of 2021.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. I was wondering that. I was wondering when I was last on. Time flies, I guess, in some ways, right? It's like sometimes it's so weird how time is, right? Like I was just talking about that with someone the other day. Like it's extraordinary how quick some things go and how slow some things drag. You know, and it's all within the same time block. How is that possible?
Oh, it's so weird, especially with like COVID and everything, like how that messed up time and us just it's a whole thing. But I'm so glad that you're back, man. And celebration is in due for multiple things. One, congratulations on the release of Mortal Kombat 1 and Starfield, dude. Holy hell, let's go. Starfield. Every voice actor on the planet's in that game. So I'm just glad to see you be a part of that awesome cast. And also, this year marks the 5-year anniversary of Call of Duty Black Ops 4. Question is, how do you look back on your time as Bruno, celebrating 5 years of just being in the franchise?
Man, that's a good question. Well, obviously the Bruno role is what kind of got me in, right? Like that got me in the door. I wish that we could get back into the Chaos crew at some point. I have not been made aware of that happening, but they are, there's incredible writers on that game, and they do some wild stuff from time to time. So I wouldn't be surprised if that could be cooking. But yeah, so it opened the door to Cold War, because I think it was one of those Garrett Dillahunt situations. Thank God. I don't know if you guys know that actor, but he was one of these guys who like he showed up in Deadwood as one character, and then he was so beloved that they just straight up just gave him another character. Like, even though he's really specific looking, like one was like a real like derelict scud bottom vagrant type character, and then the next guy was like this sort of like gentleman dandy that liked to slap people around and that kind of thing. And it didn't. I immediately noticed. I was like, oh my god, that's the same dude. But he played two totally different characters, and I remember being like, oh my god, could you imagine someone liking you enough to just bring you obviously back, like, even though they're like, I don't care if people notice. And I was lucky enough to have that happen with the Treyarch and Activision people. So that's incredible. So I got to continue with this great crew, just doing a different thing, and so I came in first as Zykov. You kind of said it right.
I'm sorry. I'm so bad at pronouncing names.
Right.
It's such a bad thing.
It's a whole different alphabet. I mean, like, what do we expect from anyone? First as Zykov, and then as Ravenov, and then it was then later revealed that Zykov was really the Forsaken. So I got to do this big creature along with doing this meek-mannered little guy. And then, like, in the meantime, I was the operator, Ravenov. Or actually, I don't know. That's a pretty interesting story. Ravenov was a sort of like, the guy, like the voice of God directing the players where to go. And then he was going to be an operator, and we did all sorts of work to do that. And then Russia invaded the Ukraine, and they were like, yeah, maybe we don't make a hero out of this Russian guy. And so I think what happened is I did all the work, but I don't know that it was ever used. Because, like, I mean, he was made a player character, but I think they might have scuttled that idea, even though we did it all. Just, everyone and nobody wanted to be insensitive to kind of the geopolitical, like, real world. So yeah, I mean, art, life, imitating each other somehow. There.
Oh, damn, dude. I hope they could do
Yeah.
something like that soon here, because I know, of course, Modern Warfare 3 is coming out, and of course, Ravenov is in that. Are you him? Is that you? Is that your voice?
As Ravenov coming out, I can neither confirm nor deny that.
You and your NDAs, you guys make me sick. Ugh.
Dude, I would never do that. I'm like, you know what? And I'm the worst too. You'll find it. I think when I do interviews, people realize that they're like, this guy doesn't remember anything. He doesn't need an NDA. Like, his brain is its own NDA. It doesn't hold on to any information for long enough to even share it. So, but yeah. Let me just say that I shall be making an appearance as a familiar character in the new installment. Yes.
Is there anything you could tease, like any silly little things or plots or anything you could tease?
My character will be older than the last time you saw him.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm so glad the zombies are back. Like, zombies is literally my favorite mode of Call of Duty. Like, I've just
I think that's how we came to know each other, right? Was you love zombies?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Like, I love zombies. And then also because you're in multiple franchises I love. You're in Marvel, you're in Transformers, Cliff Jumpers, Bumblebee, and then the Collector, Mortal Kombat 11, which we're gonna get into Mortal Kombat, of course. And then I love the Call of Duty franchise so much. I'm so glad we got to talk about that the first time. So, big advertisement here, a big plug break. If you have not seen the first interview I did with Andrew, check it out after this one, and just go back and just watch that amazing conversation we had. But that's awesome, man. I can't wait to see you back in the game. I love Call of Duty. I'm definitely getting the new one. I literally am getting a 5 tomorrow, so I could play Mortal Kombat. I'm getting Mortal Kombat today, so I could play it tomorrow and just play through the story. So can't wait to get the new Call of Duty and hear your voice in it, man. So it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, buddy.
Of course, two major releases that you're in Starfield, we're going to get into first because I really am so interested by this title. Like I said in the beginning, every voice actor that's ever existed is in that game. Like I was just scrolling through my feed on Instagram and I just saw like multiple voice actors be like, hey, I'm in Starfield too. I'm like, what the is everyone in this game? Like, what's going on? Like, I saw multiple people. It's crazy though, but it's just it's massive. Like I'm hearing Starfield is so massive. There's multiple planets, multiple things you could go to, multiple side missions, and that's what I just love about Bethesda. So I'm curious with you. This is not your first time working with Bethesda. Of course, you played Beckett in the Fallout 76 DLC. What do you enjoy the most about working with Bethesda on these open world RPG type games?
You know, they are they do things a little differently. I think which is not to say that, like, I think as actors, we're our thoughts and feelings are honored by most everyone. But the guys at Bethesda, they really, really cast, I think, not specifically on how on the audition piece, but sort of what you do around it. Like what is your take on it? Get off the lines if you want to, you know, like really like that's just a very loose construct for like what it is. Like a lot of the stuff that's in there is stuff that that people improv, you know, to kind of make it their own. I think that they really appreciate sort of the gold that comes from that. And so there's a real like loose jacket feel about it, you know, whereas some games like and rightly so, some games have an unbelievable amount of content. They have really ambitious goals they need to hit as far as, you know, what they need to deliver and when. And for that reason, you have a lot of stuff to bang through, you know, and it doesn't leave a ton of room for kind of playing around and kind of finding something, you know, sort of in the space in between the lines, you know. But Bethesda, I mean, when I did Fallout, God, man, I played that Beckett character, and that was an interesting, you know, that was another one of those things. Like I came in as like a raider or something like that, like because they hadn't worked with me before, and they just wanted to like see like what I was about. And then like I did like a couple sessions as sort of this no-name character that's just like, you know, kind of like barking and yelling. And they were like, well, they love what you're doing. They're gonna scrap that character and they want you to use a similar voice for like a more main role. And so that was the birth of the Beckett role. And we did a ton of work on that. And they loved me doing whatever I wanted with that stuff. Like I would pepper the line of my version of the line in there somewhere, but they were really all about like, you know, this is gritty, this is a character, this is not just we're not just saying things, you know, like make it your own kind of thing. So that always is really really fun. Like because you feel a little bit more like the collaborative, you know, part of the collaborative process rather than just kind of like showing up and saying the stuff and then you know, calling it a day. So they are great about that, and they have a great, unbelievable directors. And it's, you know, what's really cool about Bethesda? They're so busy that they have a lot of different directors, but they somehow are able to have like a through line of continuity that happens. So it's like you'll be with one director for like a month, and then you'll take a couple of weeks off, and then you'll be back, and it'll be someone different, but they will have the same mindset. You know, like they're really able to like pick up where the other left off. It's just because the other person's schedule didn't work or whatever, and they're on something else. I think the communication is really good, and they're able to kind of execute that, which makes it because like feeling like you have to start over every time, kind of figuring out who this guy is, or letting, you know, the new person figure out who it is I don't know. It feels like, you know, you take two steps forward, one step back every time, and they manage to figure it out somehow. So it's great.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you've gotten that it's a seamless transition, especially with like so much dialogue and so much going on within these games. I mean, God, like there's so much going on and just the
Yeah,
Fallout franchise and oh my God, like Starfield is massive. Tell me if I'm saying this character's name right. Taryn Killis, right? Or
I think
Callis?
it's Taryn Callis.
Taryn Callis. Okay. Oh, I love that name. Taryn Callis. Very cool character. Gosh, I wish I had an Xbox so I could play it. But you know, because Xbox and Microsoft has that deal with Bethesda now. But just briefly, talk about playing Taron Callis and getting the role, and just funny stories or anything and all about the character. Maybe something we don't
Um,
know.
I don't know that I could bring anything you don't know. So that was, that's one of those projects that was so large in scope that, like my last working on it was years ago. Like I am actually like I I didn't even know. It's funny. Like I wasn't even sure I was even in the game because it was called something else. I never knew what it was. I take everything from like a character standpoint where like I'm, trying to become whatever is there on the page and bring that to life. And really like the title of it, the franchise of it, like there's no too big, too small. Like I don't adjust anything accordingly. And so like I didn't know what this thing was. All I know is I went to this place in Marina Del Rey called Side LA that is this really great boutique studio. And it was one of those games that was going during COVID. They did not, they would not do remote. So that was kind of like that was almost like a hindrance a little bit. So it's incredible that there's such a big cast. People were so attracted to this project that they were willing to kind of venture out of our safe little boxes. When most places were doing remote, they wanted to keep the quality and the and the consistency technically in line. So when I played this character, it was so long ago that I remember people started posting things about Starfield, and I was like, "Oh wow, that looks cool." I was like, I feel like I should have read for that game, you know? Like, how come everybody's in this? And then I got like this whole thing from Bethesda being like, okay, so check it out. The game you were in is called Starfield. I was like, oh, okay, so I was in it. Got it, got it, got it. So I would need I would need a little refresher myself. There's nothing I can tell you that's new on that because I need to be I need to sit down in the audience and figure out who the hell this guy is.
That is crazy. Just the nature of game development takes so long that I
So long.
completely believe you when you're like, oh, I did that. Because, that's the nature of just like voice acting and booking a lot of these projects is that, it takes so long to get a lot of these things out. I love bringing back people I've interviewed before and just seeing how much has come out that they've been in, particularly with you. Because I remember as soon as we finished I had finished interviewing you, you announced like a bunch of awesome projects. I was like, damn. So you're either probably recording it while we did the interview, or had like
Yeah.
recorded it like years prior. And I just think that's so awesome. It just goes to show how long a lot of these projects take to get made. And so I
I know
completely
it's
believe
funny.
you,
I
man.
was talking to someone the other day who was like, "Gosh, you've just had such an incredible 2023," and I was like, "No, no. It means I probably had an incredible 2021." Like that's how long it takes for stuff to show up. Like, not a single thing that came out this year was even remotely worked on in this calendar year. So it's like yeah, it's like you're really like a long distance away from stuff, like by the time stuff comes out to you're where you're like, I always wondered if stuff could take so long that you've actually like improved, like, like, and like something comes out that's brand new and you're like, oh my God, like I was on Mars with that performance. Like, what is this? Like, which I'm sure happens because if I listen to stuff I did like 10 years ago, I'm like, ugh, gosh.
It's
I mean,
funny
if I listen,
because
if I listen to stuff I do now, I'm like, ugh, gosh. So,
dude, I'm the same way. I don't know why. It's such a weird thing. I don't know. Like when I'm editing stuff or like I've been fortunate enough to book a few projects and I have to listen back. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Like I'm just like, oh,
yeah,
I guess I did that. But God, where was I going with that? Lost my train of thought there. But yeah, no, I would remember when I was talking to Ben Diskin, who played Spider-Man in Marvel's Ultimate Alliance 2, and that game came out like gosh, I'm gonna say like at least 15, 17 years ago. And I played the performance for him, and he was just like, wow, that is absolutely awful. I remember just breaking down laughing because I was like, it's interesting how we critique ourselves as artists, or like how much our ear develops as we keep working. You know what I'm saying? It's a really
Yeah.
interesting thing there. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, we got to keep growing, right? I mean, I think there's some things that will withstand the test of time, like some things that were sort of like big and iconic, and really fit in the genre that it was in, and so there's no way to really, there's no cringe factor to it. I guarantee you Reptile will be like that. A Collector will be like that. Sarfang from Warcraft will be like that. Like, where it's just like, I don't know that I'll ever cringe at that, just because I feel like it really worked at the time, and for that reason, like, it's not colored by what was going on in the industry then, or what was going on with Andrew then, or like, it will sort of live on its own, sort of, I hope. Because, like, if I go back and listen to, I mean probably even stuff from 2014, 2013, 10 years ago, something like that, I'd probably be uh rather shocked. Only
well,
because you're a different human being. I mean, I remember this great author was asked, he was celebrating his 60th wedding anniversary, and they're like, how do you stay married to the same person for 60 years? And he's like, I'm not. He's like, the woman that is my wife bears no resemblance to the woman I married, like, in every way. Like, you have to change. Like, you have to change, right? Like, so yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, the person that Andrew 10 years ago is very different from Andrew now. So he would make different decisions and have different instincts, probably.
absolutely. And that's the beautiful thing about life, is the mutual growing and changing of things. And speaking of changing and long lasting, baby, let's get into our Mortal Kombat, man.
Oh God, what a
Have
great
to
segue, Josh. Jeez Louise.
I've been doing this for a while.
I
I've
love
been
it.
doing this for a while. But Mortal Kombat, man, when I saw you announce you were a Reptile, my jaw hit the floor because of how much I did not recognize that was you. I remember watching the trailer and I was like, who the hell is this? It can't. No, I was like going through so many names. I was like, is this no, this isn't Steve, because Steve did Reptile in Mortal Kombat X. I was like, see, Steve sounds nothing like that. No, is it this? Is it this? I was like going through people I interviewed. I was like, okay, does anyone sound like this? And then when you announced it, I was like, I kid you not,
Yeah.
I was in shock. You did an incredible job with Reptile. This is my second favorite voice you do of all time that you've done. Like, I love what you did with the Reptile character. My first favorite is,
Thank
of
you, man.
course, Bruno. I love Bruno. Gotta love that character. But then Reptile, I'm gonna get into it about why I love your performance of that character so much. But oh my God, standout job as Reptile. Truly. This game is massive. Mortal Kombat 1 looks absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Even though I've been spoiled on a few things because the internet, but it looks massive, and I'm such a huge fan of this franchise. For people who might not know or haven't seen our previous interview, watch our previous interview. What is your history with the Mortal Kombat franchise, both as a performer and as a fan?
Yeah, man, great question. And thank you for your compliment on that. There's really nothing better than when someone can't place who that is, really. And like, for me, I always worry that, when you work a lot, that you start to overpopulate yourself, and I never want that to happen. I work really hard to always try to sound different, but there's some things that there's always going to be similarities. So, a lot of work went into making him unique. And if that's translating, then that's dope. So thank you for that. Yeah, Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat was probably the first game that I, like, really, really gravitated towards. I grew up kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and I didn't even have TV until I was like 12. So I didn't have a video game system or anything. But and like, while, like, NES was cool and all that, I didn't. I mean, it was a miracle to to play Nintendo, right? But when I heard about this game on the Sega Genesis, called Mortal Kombat, and it was the first one where the characters looked photorealistic and there was like these actual voices coming out of them. It didn't sound like, it wasn't like, like I was like, holy shit, this is massive. And like, blood exploded out of faces. I was like, this is incredible. And I set about finding someone who had a Genesis so that I could befriend them and maybe hang out a little bit, And lo and behold, of course, I found one, and I remember playing that game as much as possible. Like that was, I was never a crazy gamer for much. The only two things I played ravenously was the first Mortal Kombat and then some of the Zelda games later. Just because, like, I don't know, I never could afford the consoles, and I just never I never was able to do it. So it was always having to like play it at friends' houses. But Mortal Kombat was dark and it was ugly and it was scary, and I thought that was dope. I would play like the first couple of them until, and then kind of like high school ended, and then I was like on my own in Hollywood, and like didn't, certainly, like, this was probably like when PS2 was out. So I took a long, long break. And honestly, like, I mean, I getting hired as the collector was one of those things that definitely ticked a box as far as things have come full circle now. Like, you are able to participate, like, as an actor in something that you thought was cool as a child, which I don't know, there's really nothing cooler than that, because that seems so unattainable when you're a kid. Like, you don't know where this stuff comes from. I mean, you know what? Now I think kids do. I think kids get it. I think there's so much industry accessibility, I think that, it's a lot more, it's more of an open world. People can really know, like, who's developing these things, who's writing these things, the interest in who's playing the actors, I'm sorry, who's playing the characters. Like, it's much more accessible now. But like when I was a kid, it was as elusive as, like, like music and movies, like, where it was just like, this is some shit made in a far off world that looks nothing like my world, and these are these incredibly talented human beings that I'll never meet. And and you never think that those things will, that your paths will cross. And so, I didn't know that I was reading for Mortal Kombat for the collector when I read it. This is just like, they gave me some cool art and some lines to read, and it was called some code name. And yeah, so I just, took it at face value. I'm really, I mean, and I've said this before in other interviews, and I'm really glad that was the case, because I would have, that would have gotten my head, like, you can't help that. Like, it doesn't matter how dedicated you are to crafting a character or whatever that looks like. If you are a fan of the thing that you are getting into, or if it was something that really, like, blew your doors off when you were a kid, you can't help but, like, that's in your head, you know, like, in a big way. Like, I remember, like, I read for a couple Transformers things before I got Bumblebee, and that was certainly a thing. Like, Transformers was something that really came to popularity when I was a kid in real time, with the cartoon. And I mean, I went to go see the animated Transformers movie in the theater, and
I'm
so
still
that
jealous of you. I'm still
that
jealous
can't
of you.
help you. Yeah, well, I mean, all you got to do is be old, okay? Uh, um, but yeah, I mean, so you know, I think that NetherRealm does a great job of not flagging that. That way they can really get people's organic take on whatever the hell this thing is that's been put in front of them, rather than, because certainly the reputation precedes them, right? Um, yeah, and what's also cool is, how much they've developed this story that got rather insane by the time we were in 11, which is, I think, why they kind of wound it back and were just like, let's get back to our roots here. So, I mean, if you, I would have thought it was only like efforts and hits and, things like that. I didn't realize there was going to be so much cinematic coolness to it. So yeah, man. So that was my relationship to Mortal Kombat. And when the Reptile thing came up, it's great. Again, like a huge part of that was they were like, we loved you as the collector. We have this opportunity to try something where we want to try you out for a classic character, but we have a lot of concerns about them sounding like the collector. Like we, I said this in another little podcast thing I did, but they had been bitten by that before. NetherRealm was, they were just sensitive to, the fans calling them out for for two different characters sounding similar, and so they really wanted to make sure that that was not the case. So we had to do a lot of testing to find the voice for him. And so you saying I didn't know who that was is a testament to that. I think we did our job right, and I think that NetherRealm was really correct in digging in to make sure that we always were aware of that. Especially because the collector was kind of he was creaturey in a way, and so is Reptile, and it's like, but you know I did everything I could to sound completely different, and I think it really worked. I don't hear it. Like, I don't hear this. If I don't hear it, because I'm looking for it, like, I'm my harshest critic and I'm not hearing it. So we got lucky.
Extremely lucky, man, and I love this performance that you did. And I'm curious, when did you find out that you were Reptile, or this was the classic character they were going for? How did the process of finding out you were actually going to be Reptile in the new game come about?
So they in true NetherRealm fashion, they kind of reached out to my agents and said, hey, we have this opportunity for Andrew, but we need to we hope he can be patient with the process that we've sort of laid out, because we're reading a couple different people for a couple different original characters. And I hope that would he be willing to play ball with some testing and some some basically demo sessions, so we can kind of try different voices, see where it might live. So at first they didn't say who it was, and I tried out for a couple different characters, but their idea all along was the Reptile thing. It's just they wanted to sort of see what my range was, because up until this point they had really only worked with me on the collector, and he was very sort of what he was, and so they hadn't worked with me in anything outside of that. And the big thing for them was the sort of the growth of this character, right? So I knew it was Reptile fairly quickly. It was not like the collector, where it was like, we're not going to tell you what this guy is, we're not going to tell you what it's for, we're just going to see what your instincts are, and then if we like it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. This was like, okay, we're going to explain to you what this is, and we hope that you can play ball with us, and here's our concerns. And we're taking this new game very super seriously, and the cast is a huge part of this. And so, yeah, I mean, a big thing was the humanity of him in his human form, or his apparently human form, and then him becoming an entirely different creature when he changes completely. That there was not going to be any hybrid, there was not going to be any combo. There was, which is great. I mean, I think that has played really well. I think people seem to love that, because the Reptile that I remember, and I actually didn't play him very much. I was more of a Sub-Zero, Scorpion guy, or Raiden. Um, was all he really did was occasionally he'd peel off his mask and spit venom, and so
The sound effect is killing me.
that's, yeah, and he'd kind of grin at the camera, but he had his full body in his little green outfit, and he just had a lizard snout, and so they wanted to give this guy a real glow up, and they wanted the voice to do the same, so he really needed to be very human when he's human, and almost he's kind of emo, this guy, I mean, he's in an extraordinary position when we first meet him, which is really cool. I mean, it's fun to be able to be, someone who's kind of under someone's boot heel, at the beginning, and sort of, gets to, come back from that and find not only like who he is as a warrior, but also like, who he is as this someone who's different, because he was sort of not accepted by anyone, and he was Shang Tsung's prisoner, or sort of his lackey, like whether sort of under duress, he was kind of held hostage to be this person he wasn't, and so there's so much cool stuff going on there. I mean, like those are the greatest roles to play, right? So
That's why, and to go back to what I say, why I love your vocal performance for Reptile so much is the subtle nuances in your portrayal of him as a human is astonishing. I love it so much. I was reading his bio before coming up with the questions, and a Sartarian slave, and he's been bullied mercilessly. And I love your voice because there's a sense of sort of aggression, but there's also a sense of pain and sensitivity to his voice. When in the trailer, he was you probably remember line. He was like, "You misunderstand my intentions, princess," and he was like talking to Katana. I felt the emotion where he's like, "Yo, like I don't want to have to do this. Like I'll do it, but like I don't, like just chill out. Like I'm not trying to hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and there's just so much going on, and just so that simple line is phenomenal. Like you really like killed it, dude. Like seriously, like I'm not just saying this because you're here, but like the subtle nuances and the pain and the sort of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Bruce Banner, Hulk kind of thing they got going on with the Reptile this time around is astonishing. I love what they did with the Reptile here, man. Oh my God, I fucking love it. How would you describe this version? And I was gonna ask you this, and I'm glad that go back to what I was gonna say. I'm glad NetherRealm didn't tell you who this was, because I was gonna ask if there was like any sort of pressure on you, because like I said, I found out today that Frank Welker played Reptile, and then you have Steve Bloom who played him, and then you have Tom Taylorson who played Reptile. You have so many people that have taken on
yeah,
this character.
unbelievable, right? Like
Unbelievable.
these are all hard acts to follow in their own right.
So when you found out you got the character, was there any added pressure, or we're just like, you know what? No, I've worked with them through this process. I know what I'm doing. What like what was going on in your head finally recording like the dialogue and stuff?
Yeah, I think the process that they took on in order to get me in as Reptile, that was nice because it sort of eased me into the possibility of doing this. Like there was sort of like there wasn't just like, "Hey, you're Reptile. Good luck." Like there was a lot of sessions where I was with like higher ups online and we did it all in here in this booth, by the way. Like it was almost all during COVID. I don't think I went in for one single session. So it was 100% remote.
Oh, just real
And
quick,
so
how much time passed between recording for MK11 and this one? Was there like a large gap, or was it just kind of like, all right, MK11, now this?
no, there was quite a gap. Like I probably hadn't heard from them in like almost a year and a half, 2 years, probably. Yeah, it was incredible. They MK11 took a lot longer, from my perspective. Like I feel like MK1 came out faster from like my first session to my last session with them. However, like it also seems really a lot better executed. Not there's anything wrong with MK11, but like it just seems really fleshed out. Like it didn't seem like, I guess, like I was just very, very blown away with the finished product versus how sort of truncated the recording schedule was compared to MK11. MK11 took a really long time, and there was a lot of time in between where I didn't hear from them for long periods of time, and then I'd do a couple sessions and I wouldn't hear from them from a really long time. Like, the MK1 was really regular. It was really regular. I feel like they really had a great sense of what they were doing here, and they had despite the challenges of COVID, they really were able to like make this thing happen in a really brilliant way. So yeah. But to get back to your question more, I they eased me into it through lots of trial sessions, so I knew what it was, I knew what we were doing. And after a while, it was like, it took them a while to decide, because they had to go back and do test stuff and animate some stuff and play it for different people. And then they'd come back and they'd do another session and be like, okay, like I feel like we need to tweak this a little bit, like, and so we do that, and then they'd go back to their bosses, and so it took a while. So and when you go through that, you kind of give it up. I mean, there's not like there have certainly been these things where it's just like you have one audition, one in-person audition to absolutely kill it, and then if and then that's it. Like if you don't really turn heads during that, then the role is going to go to someone else. This was a slower burn, and so there's a lot of like acceptance in the fact that, like, look, this was a great process. Whoever's going to get it's going to get it. They put the care into figuring out who it should be. Like, you got to respect that. Like, I released my attachment to it, where it was like, I was like, look, I can't live and die by this. Like, like I have to be okay with whatever they decide. And so once they had told me that I had got it, I mean, it was a great sense of accomplishment, but it didn't have that same like that, that moment that I know a lot of actors have had, where it's like you have like 1 second of jubilation in the winning of this role, followed immediately by, oh my God, like, what the hell am I going to do now? You know? So it was great. Like, so I didn't much have that. I mean, the only thing that really that was felt profoundly scary was how the fans would like it. You know, you
Mortal
never
Kombat
know.
fans are a serious bunch.
Yeah, yeah, they are. I mean, they really are, and rightly so. And I mean, I wouldn't say that I mean, if I let that influence everything I did, I think that I wouldn't be true to myself. But I certainly want to give them something that, especially if we're going in a new direction, it's very make or break. Like, it can be the coolest new thing ever, or it can be like you just really went the wrong direction. Like you don't know, and you really don't know. And this was a big change for Reptile, but I think that, given the way that other games have gone, I think that fans are hungry for that now. Like, I mean, they don't, they want multi-dimension stuff. Like, they want more backstory. They want things that can be identified with. I mean, like, the idea of things not being, nobody's all bad and no one's all good. Like, I mean, like, I think he struggles with this thing that a lot of people, especially people who practice martial arts, deal with, which is like, you have to learn to be, like you need to learn to become incredibly powerful and then not be, you know like, that's the thing. Like, you need to be capable of being a monster and then not do it, like, until it's absolutely necessary. Like, it cannot be wielded in any irresponsible way lest you become a tyrant. And so if you're just a great big monster of a beast, who's just all about, heads on spikes, that's very one dimensional. But if you're a person who, like, struggles with family and acceptance and, like, loneliness and, like, just, like, not fitting in, and I mean, I think that that is something that everyone can relate to on such a great level, that maybe that really helped with, easing people into, like, this very new direction for this classic character.
How
Plus
would
he's
you
like
just
he's insanely good looking.
I've been seeing a bunch of thirst tweets on Twitter, so shit. I guess Mortal Another Round did their thing.
I've been sent some pretty provocative art.
Don't show nobody, please.
I won't.
Oh, I know how fan art gets. Jesus, y'all, some of y'all are sick. Anyways,
In a great
within
way. In a great way.
great way. With a classic character such as this, how would you describe this version of Reptile to newcomers and also people who are familiar with the franchise?
Um. Yeah. I mean, so this guy is, he's kind of this guy with a secret at first, right? He's a person who, comes from a culture and, a place where everybody is a certain way and things are expected of you, and for whatever reason, he has this ability to switch between forms, which, most people, that we as humans with, decidedly less cool abilities would be like, dude, that would be a dream come true. But, it's that great thing that I think comic books have really done really well and video games have done really well, that like it's the reality of what that actually would be, which is that like regardless of what world you're in, there is a weird societal need to shun those that are different. It really doesn't matter how, like, even if you're different for the better, it doesn't matter. Like, you're different, that's weird. Ugh. Which I love the idea that that's not a human thing, that's an intelligent being thing. And then why do we do that? So this is a guy who's like a victim of that, and gets put in an extraordinary situation. One of these, what a great conflict, which is that, like, this guy that sort of took him in when he was sort of a sideshow freak. He had run away from his world and was basically now working with the circus, and Shang Tsung was just sort of like this snake oil salesman, that saw what he could do and knew that it was like marketable, and then once Shang Tsung, started to become an actual, sort of,
Threat,
I don't know,
source
like
user,
like a
yeah.
threat. Became a real sorcerer. It wasn't just like, smoke and mirrors. He wanted him to come with him, and this guy had a moral compass that he didn't want. He knew where this was going, and it didn't sit well with who he was. And so this guy, like any villain, like knew he had to, like, basically make him an offer he couldn't refuse. And in this case, it was, kidnapping his family, and which ultimately, was sort of the, is the carrot at the end of the stick that got him to sort of be his lapdog for a long time. And so this guy was, he's this shunned guy who's been taken advantage of. And, but it's interesting that, the people that, in that prison scene, which, the prison scene was where we did all the trial voiceover sessions too. So God, I feel like I was in that prison for like the longest time, because we spent so much time. I think that's probably all that they wanted me to see at that point. They weren't really willing to like take me into where the story was going. It was a good kind of like jumping off point to find the voice and all that. So yeah, I mean, I think this guy is like, he's a very human guy who has this extraordinary ability, that he's sort of embarrassed of, and he's incredibly dangerous if need be, but like he's a person that can control it. Like he's not a Hulk character in that way, that he's very reluctant, to do this, because like his whole life this ability has not been his crowning feature. This has been a hindrance. This has been a thing that cast him out. This is something to hide, not something to embrace. So I think that's who he is when we find him.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I love what they're doing with Reptile. Um, with this, there's so many great moments, there's so many great lines of dialogue. What moment resonated the most with you when playing the character? Maybe there was a scene that made you had to pause for a little bit, or a scene that brought you great levity. Was there any scene in particular that comes off the top of your mind where like, oh man, like I'm gonna remember this one?
I was asked that recently, and I was like, wow, I need to like think on that. And I was then sent this great compilation of a lot of his moments. And so I was able to like relive them and watch them and see them. How did they come out like for the first time? Because I don't see them before y'all do ever, like I don't get anything before you guys do. I mean, if anything, you guys have, like, the fans seek it out long before the actors ever see it. So, I got to watch through a lot of it. And honestly, like my favorite part is that moment, the moment where he finds out that Shang Tsung has killed his family long ago. You know, that like not. I mean, could you imagine that? Like, this is the linchpin under which you have been, tormented. Like the one thing that kept you doing what you were doing was the idea that your family, that this was for you, this was for the greater good of your family, that somehow if you kept doing this thing for this guy, whatever he wanted, that meant that you were keeping your family alive. And to find out that that was just something he was holding over my head the entire time, that he killed them long ago, and just like kept the idea of them alive to manipulate me. And like I do this like, and again, I don't remember doing this, but I had this really great break in my voice. Like it's like when you see something that works well, um, God, I love that because like, I kind of just have to make this up in my head. They'll explain it to death, but like it's really all in your imagination. And so I have to really like, and a lot of times I'll always think, God, man, I wish I could have seen how that was going to look first, and I might have made a different choice. And this was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, like their direction worked so well that they really knew how to get me into a place that was like where you're really like at your breaking point, and I think I say, just kill me then, like it's like I don't remember what he says, but he falls to his knees and he's just like he has nothing else to live for in that moment. And I thought that was a great moment for that character, because it really kind of, he's one of the very few that doesn't have an agenda apart from just protecting those he loved. Mind you, these are the people who also probably had part of shunning him, like didn't of not accepting him. So like, it's kind of that weird thing. It's I mean, you hear about people who have like abusive parents or neglectful parents who that they'll even in the face of um this ill treatment, they'll still protect them. They'll protect them for forever because they don't want that construct to fall apart. And so they always protect them and lie for them or whatever that takes. And so this moment that like, these people he had been protecting had not been alive to be protected in a very long time. And it just kind of breaks his little soul in that moment was, I thought it was
That
an extraordinary little moment for them to write and then somehow get me to do,
I
it was really, really well done on their part.
that's very so sad. I can't lie. Like
It's so sad, right?
I what I love so much about now where they're oh, you froze. There you go.
I
There you
did.
go. Yeah, you're there. You're there.
No, I was
But
just very still.
what I love so much about MK now is we're getting these stories, we're diving deep, and we're really peeling back the layers of the onion, so to speak, and getting really to the root of these characters. And I can't wait to like fully play to experience all of it. But my friends have all come to me. One of my friends said to me, like, this is the best Mortal Kombat story they've made in since the early 2000s. I'm like, Jesus, man. Like a lot of people are resonating with the story and where they're taking this franchise next. And they have some phenomenal talent like you, and then they have Matt Yang King doing his thing as Liu Kang, and then we got Andrew Bowen doing Johnny Cage, and we got Carrie Walgren doing Katana Millennium. We just have so many phenomenal people here. We all got to give it up to the amazing, Dominique Giancolo for directing all of you
Yeah,
guys, and
for
what
sure.
I'm saying, like, and he's been doing this for a while, directing a lot of you guys. I think he started with Injustice 2. I'm pretty sure he did, and he's just been directing all the NetherRealm stuff since then. And he's really
Yeah.
brought out a lot of the best in you guys. And I'm very glad that you have a director who knows. I love the relationship between director and actor, especially recently coming into performing and have to listen and trust my director in landing these performances. And sometimes you want to question or judge, and then you finally see it and you're like, oh my God, thank you. I'm glad I listened, and it really comes out with this character, Reptile. I love this character to death. What do you hope fans gain the most from your performance? Like they really see the dedication from your performance and stuff. Like,
Well, I mean, gosh, I don't Andrew doesn't need anything except for them to have fun and to enjoy it and to have like an emotional experience, or if not that, at least like satiate some sort of bloodlust, because while they've expanded the story, which is really cool. I mean, like, let's be honest, the game also really rocks when it comes to just absolute violence, and I'm so impressed with the stuff that they come up, because, like, look, as much as I love to dive into character and backstory, like, like, when I saw me, like, tongue off that woman's head and then catch it in my mouth and then crush her skull, the Cannibal Corpse fan in me absolutely loves that. So, it's so multi-layered, and hats off to NetherRealm and Dominic, for being able to, turn a game that is mostly, it's a gore, that has a very gory game, into, an experience that's not just that, while maintaining that, and thank God, I'm impressed that the fans are super into that, like, I think as long as they're, they could have easily just been like, forget that, like, let's just get to the heads on spikes, and rightly so. I mean, like, there's a place for that, like, and it's fun and it's gross and we love that shit. Like, I love gory stuff. Like, I'm a horror fan, but the
Fellow,
fact that we can expand into appreciating it growing in all ways, I think is I think that's pretty impressive, man. And Andrew doesn't need that, but I'm really glad that the people are loving the game and they're loving who the characters become,
when ask fans what they're
because,
thinking about the Switch. Have you been
oh
seeing
man,
that?
somebody sent me a video the other day of all the Switch glitches. It looks like
Uh,
Reptile's having a lot of them.
I'm, bro, the plan originally was, right, I get the Switch version of the game and I'll just play until I get the 5. Luckily, I'm getting the 5 tomorrow, but I was just gonna play the Switch version until I get the 5. I was at a mall food court with my friend. He was like, "Hey Josh, come look at this." And he was like, "This is the Switch version of Mortal Kombat 1." When I tell you, I almost broke his phone. I was like, "There's no way. There's absolutely no way." And I was just like, "No, this ruins my whole plans." Oh my gosh, I really hope they can fix that as soon as they can, because I don't know. And also, the Switch is like an old console too, so I don't know if putting Mortal Kombat 1 on the Switch was a greatest idea, because like I'm looking at the Arkham trilogy for the Switch and how they have to, because the system is so old, they have to port the game in a weird way for you to like play the entire trilogy. So
Right,
I don't know if that was the best move. Hopefully, like, if Nintendo launches, I'm hearing they're gonna like launch a Switch 2 next year or something. Hopefully they could repackage MK1 for that game and like fix it up and stuff. Because right
right.
now, I don't think it's the best idea to be putting newer titles on the system right now. Like, I
Yeah, I
don't.
mean, I look, I don't want to, like, just diss the Switch. That's the only console I have because I have little kids, and that's what they gravitate towards, and I
No,
think
absolutely. And I don't want this to come off from,
when it's
yeah.
in that lane, I think it's great. But I mean, I didn't think it did very well with MK11. That was odd as well. And I played the Hyrule Warriors game, which is sort of like a battle royale and like a split screen, and it cannot handle it. It is like the frame rate's all off. Like,
No.
everything's in a mess. Like, when it's just Zelda, standing on a mountain with his hair blowing, like, just, with the camera pan, kind of just like, you know, whatever, like, with a drone shot around him, like, that works well. But the minute there's action happening, it's just all pixelated, and it's not the thing, like, it's not built to do that level of, like, screen intensity, it seems like. Yeah.
At least for right now, like I said, I'm 100% sure when the Switch 2 or whenever it comes out, it's gonna be off to the race. It's gonna be phenomenal. But like I said, the Switch came out in what, like 2018, 2017. Like, it's been out for
Something, yeah.
something like that. It's been out for a long time, and obviously, like, technology has just advanced so far. I mean, compare MK11 to MK1. I feel like I feel like with MK11, like, I'm playing like a very graphically good game, of course, visually, of course. But like, I feel with MK1, I'm watching a movie. That's just
Right.
has changed
And that's
since
only
the
like a
game.
couple years, right? Like
Only
it's
a
3
couple years.
years.
I
Yeah,
couldn't
yeah.
imagine trying to compute that with a system that came out like what 5 or 6 years ago. Like there's going to be
Well, I
some
mean,
sacrifice. So I'm like I
well, yeah, I
said,
think we're seeing that in a big way happen, so
fingers crossed. But
yeah.
back to MK with what they're teasing for the future, and of course story endings and stuff. What do you hope they do next with Mortal Kombat, specifically with the franchise and even your character, maybe?
Well, I hadn't even like someone asked me the other day, they were like, "Are you prepared to be this character for like a long time?" And I hadn't even thought about that. Mostly because I feel like, you know, because the character's changed hands multiple times, like it would stand to reason that they would still continue to do that. Maybe to just always uh I don't know, maybe it's just like one of those roles where there's always going to be someone new taking a stab at it. Um I would hope that I mean, I would love to go forward with it. I mean, maybe hopefully the fans digging it will like I said, NetherRealm cares about that very much. And so like they'll hear that and be like, well, all right, we stick with what's working right now. So yeah, I mean, like story wise, I really couldn't say, man. I mean, they I mean, I can't remember what the purported story was of MK1 back in the day. Like, I remember that movie coming out, Mortal Kombat.
I love it for its corniness, man. Can't lie. I love it because of just how corny it is. I love it.
Yeah,
I love.
totally, totally. And you know, uh, I couldn't say where I mean, I hope that there's a lot more reptile in it. I hope that this potential love interest, grows and maybe becomes something that can, I mean, certainly like what do they say when you're a warrior? Like the worst thing you can do is fall in love, I mean, because then then they have something on you, they have something that you care about more than you, and so that can certainly be a foothold story wise to, get old reptile into a very uncomfortable place again, if he when you love something, people have leverage on you, so that's an interesting thing from the evildoers in this world, of which there are many, trying to get one over on a sympathetic emo kid like Reptile.
Wow.
you
Speaking
know?
of it's been fun talking about you with games and stuff, but of course, the elephant in the room, the SAG after strike is still going on, WGA strike
Yeah,
still going on. And it's just been extremely frustrating and disappointing to see how long this has been going on. We're hearing
yep.
reports that the WGA strike might be coming to a close soon. I don't know how true that is though. And then, of course, if the WGA strike is coming soon, I would have to hope that the SAG strike would end soon after.
Yeah, I
Um,
hope so. Thanks for bringing that up, man. I appreciate your putting the spotlight on that. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's difficult, right? Um, you know, it's hard to have an extraordinary job like I have and complain. But the reality is companies make an outrageous amount of money with us. And we are just employees that have bills like anybody else, I mean, I think that hopefully this thing is maybe allowed the world to understand that a little bit, that really like we're not a bunch of people like living in Beverly Hills, like, like driving around in limousines from one job to the other. I mean, we're in the muck with everyone else, like dealing with kid schedules and life insurance and, bills that are surprising and, all of a sudden getting sick and like, how do you pay for that? And I mean, all that's, we're just very normal humans in that way. No different. And, I think that we're seeing that a lot, that I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with. There's been a lot of inflation and we need to all be paid a rate that is commensurate with what life costs you know um and I think you know we I think that we have been taken advantage of. I think that
for too long. for too
for
long.
too long. There was this. I remember I saw this 60 Minutes report on pilots a couple years ago, and it was about how the airlines take such advantage of pilots. Like they pay them next to nothing. They give them no benefits. They do all these like really underhanded things to make sure they work just little enough to not qualify for certain things that the law allows for, and they do it because pilots love to fly, and they know that, and so they're like, look, we got these people by the balls. And the same thing with actors. They love to do this. This is what they dreamed of doing. Like they dreamed of doing this and they made it happen. These people will do it for next to nothing, because they love it so much, and that's so messed up, man. Like that's part of the business plan, to be like, no, dude, you don't understand. These people are so pumped on what they do. Like we can fuck them, like to no end, like, excuse my language, but I mean,
No, it's
that's,
very upsetting. Like,
yeah, it
I
is,
can't
I mean,
imagine series regulars. I saw a TikTok where this actor was like, I'm a series regular on this hit TV show. I think it was the Netflix Sabrina TV show. He said he had to work 2 jobs to take care of his kids. I'm like, bro, how are you on this show that's getting millions of views, #1 trending in America, and you have to fucking do Lyft and that, and then you
yeah.
have kids? How is that even
How's
possible?
that
Like,
possible? I know everyone thinks that you're just like, you're on a show or whatever that looks like, and you just got it made, like it's just, I mean, and it's just so not the case. I mean, it's like there's so much content being made, and like the pay goes down, and like the writers too, man. I mean, the writers. I mean, look, what we do as actors is a challenge, certainly, but the writers' existence, man, to sit there and just be alchemists, just basically like I have to just sit down and I have to take these ideas and I need to get them on this page and I need to do it in a timely fashion, and to do that and to be as undervalued as they have been, like I wouldn't even have anything to, I wouldn't have a job if it wasn't for these writers, like it's unbelievable, like it's the lifeblood of the entire thing, and it's so um I don't know, it's treated like such an afterthought, and IATSE, I have so many other friends that like they're just sidelined right now, while they don't even have a seat at the table to, like, to benefit. All they get
the
is
VFX
screw is
workers.
they're just yeah, like, the mixers and the makeup artists and the truck drivers and transpo and catering, just the people that make a film set or whatever that looks like work. These incredible professionals are just at home twiddling their thumbs right now, and over what? Like, we're asking for a little bit of revenue sharing, and maybe just a couple of steadfast guarantees that you're not just going to steal our faces and our voices in perpetuity. I mean, it is such a small ask,
That's another thing I want to ask you. I I was at work last night and I saw a video. They were like AI Mortal Kombat custom AI intros, and I heard your voice, and I got very angry, like quick. Like I'm a very aggravated, like I get angry quickly. And I heard your voice and I got very angry because I know that person did not ask you, can I use your voice? I know that person
Nope.
did not check. I know that person did not check if you're okay saying with what they said in that video. Because, bro, the thing about it is, if you want to do these AI things, I have my opinions about you, and I won't say them here. I'll say them off the air, but I have my opinions about you. But go ahead. If you're at least going to do it, make it be funny. The video was ass. The video was ass. They were saying the dumbest things I've ever heard, period. And they just did it because they could. And it's
Right.
like, I need you guys to be protected. I want to be a voice actor so bad. I do these interviews, I audition all the time when I can. My voice doesn't sound like I smoke 20 packs of cigarettes a day. When I'm fine and up to speed and not sick, I want to do this professionally. And I'm so sympathetic, and I stand with all of you guys because I am watching people actively do this, have no sympathy, have no care, have no moral compass to ask. Steve Bloom literally said, I do not want any of you AI people to use my voice twice. Guess who was in that video I saw last night? Steve
Oh
Boom's
yeah.
voice plastered throughout that video.
Yeah,
I,
it's stealing. It's stealing,
I,
you know?
I
And
and
it's not for some reason it's not been criminalized yet.
it's not been criminalized, and I need this strike to change that. I'm so serious. I'm sick of seeing this because I'm friends with you. I'm friends with Yuri Lowenthal. I'm friends with Steve. I know these people. I've been so blessed to know you guys, and to see my friends' work be stolen, and for them to not be asked, to not be compensated, to not be asked, to be attacked when they get angry. Multiple voice actors have been like, report this video. I did not say my voice could be used in this manner. And for people to get on the internet and be like, shut the hell up. I don't care. I'm going to still do it anyways. Blows my mind. And it
Yeah.
frustrates me to no end. There's a whole, you're not on Twitter like that, but there's this whole post. This guy was like, hey, I'm sending this out to warn voice actors. These following list of voice actors plus some, their voices are being used in AI adult curated content without their consent. And I saw multiple voice actors be like, what the hell? I didn't even know this was a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many voice actors are being taken advantage of. And I just wish people would take this more seriously. Like, I keep going on the internet, and this just goes back to how I feel about the treatment of voice actors and just people in animation and video games, period, which is a whole video I'll make one day. But I just want people to, to remember one thing. Our voices are ours. It is our body. You taking our voices is no different than, kissing a girl on the cheek without her consent. And it's wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's a part of our body. It is something we use to bring joy to people, that we love performing. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone I've spoken to loves performing. I mean, Andrew's gotten to play so many people. I mean, just look up top, like Reptile, Hugging the Collector, Cliff Jumper. He's played all of these people. And it's just so upsetting to see that people are just like, it doesn't matter. I'll still use it. Like, I'm sorry. That's how I feel about it. It's very upsetting. I saw the video and I was like, damn, like, I'm speaking to him today. This is very upsetting. And now my night is ruined.
No, I mean, thank you for your passion, man. I really appreciate that. I think this is kind of a turning point. I think that we'll find a place where, look, stealing has been happening since the minute like things started to be made. I mean, I
Yep.
remember, I used to be a runner for HBO. I used to have to, I used to run coffees around to every, studio, like, and take lunches to people, and that was my little job. And then with the end of the show, HBO would send me with a bunch of cash to downtown LA, and they'd give me like these different streets that I would like go and walk along, and they'd have me buy every single bootlegged copy of an HBO show that these guys were selling, and just take it back, and then HBO would just destroy it. I mean, they had a whole department that was just like, like, we have to have a budget to get this shit back to us, um, and so it's weird that the industry has, this is an industry that has experienced that same feeling, like, of like, hey, we fucking all got together and made this thing. Why do you just get to like steal it and then sell it for free? Like, they appreciate that, so why, and then I'm not calling out HBO. They're not specifically, but I mean, they are part of a larger collective of executives that, they want to leave a gray area there, because, if it's not affecting their bottom line, then it doesn't seem to concern them that much. But the minute it is, oh my God, we're sending like kids out with like envelopes full of cash to just buy it all up, so it's like, you get it. You get it. Like, you get the idea of like having your own intellectual property being taken from you, and it's not fair. So I mean, look, I mean, at the end of the day, the more the AI thing comes up and we start to understand that it's a tool to be used in concert with humans and to not devalue humans, I think it'll normalize. But, I mean, I think the government has to get involved with regulations too. I mean, because what are you going to do, buddy? Like, we're all little tax making little batteries here. If we all become redundant, like, you're not getting your that there goes your tax revenue. So you better put something in place to like protect us.
100%. And we're just gonna leave it there. Hopefully, the pendulum's gonna swing. It's gonna swing. I promise
Oh,
you
it's
that.
gonna swing.
It's not gonna be this way for too long. And I find it so funny. I'm gonna say this one thing. I find it so funny that NFTs are falling and are becoming worthless, and now they're going over to AI art to try and pretend like there's some good creator. You're not a creator, you're a fucking stealer, and I have more creative talent in my finger than you ever will. So, me and Andrew both do. So I'm gonna just leave it at that, guys. Thank you so much for listening to us get
Thank
very angry
you.
about this. Anything you want to plug or promote, Andrew, before we go? Of course, Mortal Kombat 1 out now, Starfield out now. But anything in addition to that?
No, thank you guys so much. Thanks to all the fans who came out for this and who are playing the game and enjoying it. Thank you for your support. I'm not at liberty to speak about anything moving forward in the future because a lot of those things are being struck against right now, so I can't promote or talk about them. But there will be my first Streamily cast signing, Mortal Kombat 1, will be in mid-October. Stay tuned. I think October 19th is kind of what we're discussing. Some of the artwork's coming out. It looks dope. And it's going to be me and like 6 other cast members, the main characters, all doing it together. So excited to share that with you guys. And more to come on that. Of course, I'll let Josh know, and I'll post stuff as well, as will Kari and Vince, Vic, and all those guys. Yeah.
Need like at least 10 Bruno prints, 5 reptile prints, 10 collector prints. Need that. Yeah. Oh, thank
There
you
you
guys
go.
so much for joining. I'll see
Yeah.
y'all on my
Thank
next
you.
interview. Shang Tsung interview Sunday. So come back Sunday and I'll see
Oh
y'all then.
God, the man who's twisted my tits.
I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much, guys. God bless. Stay safe. Ooh. There, hold on. There we go. Stupid phone. All right. And